Okay, I think we're live. Yeah. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Post Fight Podcast. It's my favorite lineup. I think we have the highest expectancy for carnage here when we got Chris, Leon, and John, JHK. What's up, guys? I will come to you all in a little bit, but yes, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff going on today. And yesterday we got Seo Hee is now out of the One Championship Atomweight Grand Prix, replaced by Julie Meza-Barber, the alternate, and nothing for Denise now. We got Jon Jones getting arrested again, and some very disturbing details coming out about that. We've got the Christian Lee debate still rumbling on, and plenty of other stuff I'm sure we'll get to. But yes, Chris, I'm going to go first to you because looking very fresh there.
Thank you very much.
I just had to say it. Yeah. What did you call him, John? Slick Chris.
Yeah. So fresh and so clean.
That's it. I'm bringing the 80s back.
All right. And John, is your new studio ready yet?
This is kind of like basically 99% of it. It was just like me putting in a light in the background and kind of getting rid of all the posters and stuff like that. So
John,
I feel like too many people had, huh?
So look at John getting all flashed. Suddenly full time, he's suddenly getting a studio all sorted. He's getting up in the world.
What can you do, man? You gotta evolve, and I feel like the poster thing is played out now. You know, too many people have it, so I got to get rid of all that stuff.
Well, Leon's got a boring white background. He's gone inside.
I'm in my spare room now, so I've got him in a little corner with my little ring light. All curtains are closed, trying to keep out the traffic as much as possible. I think it's working a little bit.
Just need a mic now.
I've got a mic, baby.
All right. Let's get into it then. Where should we start? Ham? Let's do Ham. Okay, so yeah, we all saw the news. I'll put it up from SCMP. I did break it, and then James Goyder didn't give me credit again. He never does. What's going on with him?
God damn it, Goyder.
Yeah. One championship quickly confirmed it. I don't think he ever gives credit. No, it's fine. I'm not upset. Okay, yeah. Look, here it is. One championship injured. Seo Hee replaced by Julie Meza-Barber. Meza-Barber will face Stamp Fairtex in the semifinals of the tournament after Ham was injured in training. It's an unspecified injury. I don't know what it was. John, have you heard anything through your neck of the woods out there? You're in South Korea. Did you hear about this before?
No, I found out when you broke the news. You know,
okay.
I found out from you that she was injured, but that is kind of a weird scenario, right? Like, is she training that hard right now? Because when's the fight happening? How many weeks from now?
3 weeks.
October 29.
Damn.
About a month.
3.5 weeks. Oh, what day is it today? Yeah. End of October.
Well, I guess she should be training hard then, but I don't know, man. I don't doubt that she's injured or she got injured, but it must be something pretty serious where she can't make the fight. She can't, make the Grand Prix, and they have to slide her in. But I'm going to try to find out something. I'm going to reach out to some people. But yeah, right when I think I was going to sleep or something like yesterday, or I was laying down or something, and then I saw your tweet, Nick, and then I was like, damn it.
So I ruined your nap. I'm sorry.
No. I just said damn it and then just went to sleep.
Yeah, well, there's not many other details really. That's all I could get out of that. So the one lingering question is, what do you do with Denise? Does she still, because she was going to have an alternate fight against Julie Meza-Barber on the same October 29 card.
Was it going to be on that card? Definitely.
Yeah, I was told that.
Because she'd had quite a bad cut not that long ago.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether she wouldn't be able to heal up in time anyway.
Yeah. That was the plan, I was told. But yeah, like you said, the cut. Does she still fight anyone now? Unlikely, you'd think. Would you have an alternate for the final if they get through those semis unscathed? I think they need one. Yeah, the lightweight Grand Prix, they ended up needing one, right? Sorry, Chris.
If I was Denise, I'd just hang around to the final. If one of the winning semi-finalists gets injured, you're there, you're ready to step in. No point to put yourself through any more pain. You're still ranked number 1 on the rankings anyway. Worst case scenario would be after the 2 semi-finals, you're ranked 3rd. And then one of those girls drops out, pulls an injury. you're right there ready to step in and just keep training, heal yourself up. And that's all I'd say to her, because we've got the final in December. It's not that far away anyway. That's, what is that, 10, 12 weeks away?
There's so much grey area in Grand Prix. I mean, let's pretend someone pulls out of the final and Ham's fit by then. Would you put Ham back in, or would you put Denise back in? And then if Ham had won decisively, that's one thing. But the fact there was controversy means that's even more. Who knows? There's so many possibilities, and where's right, where's wrong, where's the line? It's so tricky.
It is very tricky. Okay, yeah. Well, we do know it's now.
If let's say if someone does pull out of the final and Ham and Denise are both fit, who would you put in?
I don't want to think about this. I just want it to play out.
Yeah.
Well, look, on Twitter, someone asked me my opinion. I said, let's have the semis in December and let's do Angela v Denise for the title. And then if Angela retains her belt, she can fight the winner next year. It's dragging on so long, and I think we need to get things moving. And I'd rather see the tournament play out as it was intended. Because is this fun to win your fight and then just get replaced? I don't like it.
I 100% agree with you.
Well, I feel like if the Grand Prix started when it was supposed to start, then they could have probably delayed this fight to get Ham back to full health so she could move on to the next round and actually compete. But since they started the Grand Prix so late in the year, that now they have to pretty much rush through and fill in whoever they can fill in on those dates, because they have to fill those cards up, right? And then you want all the women to fight on the same night, which makes it more spectacular, right? Just like when we watched the other show where all four fights happen on the same night. It just made it much more exciting. I think that's what they want to do. They want to stick with this date. With Ham and Denise, I think when they get healthy, if they don't step in, they should fight each other. That's my suggestion. Do the rematch.
The other thing, though, they wouldn't need to delay it because they'd have had more time in between the fights. They're rushing it because obviously the 2021 Grand Prix didn't start until the 9th month of the year, which is obviously pretty crazy. And obviously there were circumstances outside of their control. Yeah, it's just rushed. I've got a little theory. I mean, well, first before that, I mean, we don't know how injured Ham is, if this could be a quick recovery, whether she'll be fit in December. But another quick question for you. Is it easier in some way to do a Grand Prix in one night, 2 or 3 fights, than it is to do in a quick period of, say, 2 or 3 months? Because to a certain extent, once you're in the fight a night, you've got bangs, you carry on, you've got momentum, you've got adrenaline. Once you step back and you relax, you have a few days off, and then you've got lingering knocks and pains. And could that be more difficult?
I'll throw it to the other guys. The floor is open.
I think if you're doing one night Grand Prix, I much prefer it like what they do in Japan, where you have the quarterfinals a few months out, then you have the semi-finals and the finals on the same night. I think 3 fights is a little bit too much, but I think one night tournaments, it's a bit looking backwards for the sport now in the modern era. I just moved to personally. I think having a Grand Prix over such a small amount of time just isn't really practical. If you look at Bellator, even the heavyweight Grand Prix, I think was supposed to be over in a year, and I think it ended up stretching out about 15, 16 months. They usually take a year, and we are really rushing things to fit it in less than 4 months.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's the rushing bit that I don't think any of us like. I think Nick's suggestion, have the semi-finals on the big 10th anniversary card. That's still 2 huge fights. And also that gives you another huge fight for the beginning of next year to look forward to. Not that you need big fights. I think there's going to be loads of them, but it's another big fight to look forward to. And it just gives everyone more time to heal up, recover, get a good fight camp in, and not have replacements.
I'll read a comment here quickly, and then I'm going to throw something that Jon said, which I found interesting yesterday. This is from Gordon. One is doing the right thing here. Denise should not get special treatment just because her fans are ultra whiny. Julie Mizababa earned her spot as an alternate, and that has to be honored. We'll talk about Denise in a minute, but yeah, Jon, I wanted to ask you, because you said something interesting. You think Julie Mizababa is going to now go all the way and win this thing. Can you present your case to the floor?
I feel like Julie, she had her warm-up fight against Mei Yamaguchi, who was ranked in the top 5, right? And she went in there and dominated. She did well against Mei Yamaguchi with a lot of pressure on her because she's the alternate and she's facing a legend of the division. And she went in there and did really well. I feel like she's just going to only build from here, and her sliding into these matchups. Because when you look at it, Julie is just as experienced or more experienced than Stamp, right? And I feel like she could go anywhere in the fight, and not really Stamp can do that as much as Julie can. And if you look at it like this, do a little MMA math, do you think Stamp would be able to beat Mei Yamaguchi like Julie did? Or do you think Stamp would be more dominant? You know what I mean? Like, I look at it like that too sometimes. But with Julie, I'm just putting all my eggs in in the basket of Julie. The reason why is because she's just replacing my other favorite, Ham. So might as well just roll with the punches and go with Julie, right? And be her biggest fan and support her. And you remember the heavyweight Grand Prix Strikeforce did a long time ago? And who slid in there just at this almost the same moment as Julie is sliding in right now as an alternate and won the whole damn thing? Daniel Cormier. And we know who Daniel Cormier is now. So maybe is Julie the next Daniel Cormier? It's not out of the realm of possibility, right? So I'm just saying.
100%. Just to add what John said there, you do have to say out of the 4 of them, if you actually have to choose the most well-rounded MMA fighter from what we've seen of her and from what I've seen of it's Julie Mezababa. She's by far the most well-rounded. She's got a very solid ground game. She looks very comfortable on her feet. And, she's got a great opportunity here. And if she can impose the weakness of the other person onto whoever she fights, because Stamp does have a hole in her ground game that everyone knows is there. And on the other side of the draw, they've both got holes in their striking. So I think there's a great opportunity for her to just come in here and sneak the whole tournament.
Leon, yes, what do you think of Julie's chances now? And does this change your prediction for the whole tournament? And what do you think of her against Stamp? Who wins that?
Well, the crazy thing is we lost kind of the 2 favourites. I think most people thought the winner was going to come from Denise and Ham. We lost Denise, now we've lost Ham. Now we've got, outside of Julie, obviously 3 young, up-and-coming MMA stars that are probably going to go on to great things. And now we've got Julie. So it's certainly thrown an interesting angle at it. And then the other thing as well is, I think when it comes to MMA, when it comes to Grand Prix, expect the unexpected. So I think the fact that Julie was in no position to win it 2 days ago, and now she's got a chance. The way the MMA gods work, it's very, very possible now, because expect the unexpected.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, let's see how it plays out. Yes, Terrence has a question. I'll get to that in a minute, just about Christian Lee, because we were going to discuss that. But yeah, so Denise, what does she do? What is this going to piss her fans off even more that she's not gotten back in? Because that would have been my first thought when I heard Ham is out of this. I thought, oh, they're just going to put Denise in. But I'm glad they stuck with the alternate. But what do you do with Denise now? Who do you pair her up with when she's fit and healthy? Do you run straight to that Angela fight or what? I'm going to go to John first. Just because you're top of my list of building blocks there on the right. So.
Yeah. The Lego blocks.
Yeah.
I'm the blue one. Now
the light is persuasive because those two have got boring backgrounds. Yeah.
Come on, Leon.
But Chris has got the shirt, so Chris can go next. Yeah.
It's a beautiful. Leon went from one hostage situation to another with that room.
I preferred Leon's nature reserve outside, even though you could hear the cars behind him. But
yeah, I think Leon, that's the best setting for you. Just show us your Bali bachelor pad.
I like being outside there, but it's just so loud. I mean, it's nice to have the sort of the tree behind, but yeah, it's not ideal.
Anyways, going back to Denise, right? I think if the stars align perfectly, since there was so much controversy behind the Zambawanga and Ham fight, they should just fight again, by the end of the year. So it gives enough time, both of them to heal. Because I feel like they probably really wanted to put Denise in that spot, but something's wrong. Like maybe she's injured too. Like you guys said, there were some talks about her still recovering from the fight and maybe some facial injuries or whatever. And if she wants to take the time off to heal, I think that's the best choice for her. Since she's so young, she has time. Ham, she's a little bit older. She has a little bit more urgency, but this injury must be serious because she's not fighting through it. And usually Korean fighters, they don't pull out of fights. Have you noticed many Korean fighters pulling out of fights? Not really. Like they just
Superboy fought with a broken arm.
Yeah,
didn't he?
Yeah, he fought with a broken. He fought with like torn ligaments in his knee, and then something else when in the Jourdain fight for Puzan. But there's he said he had to fight that fight. But Koreans usually don't pull out, and maybe that's not a good thing because in this day and age you should pull out of certain situations. But Ham did, and I think that they should put Denise against Ham. If that fight is not available, I think Denise. I like Nick's idea too. Is maybe the winner won't be ready, and then you just put Denise against Angela Lee because that's the fight that has the most steam. I think that's the fight that has the most, like the bubbles, the foam. I think that's the fight that everybody's talking about, and they were talking about a year ago. And if we put that fight together now, people will still be talking about it with the same amount of passion. And they both don't like each other, and that heat is going to carry on. If they get matched up, and Nick's going to get some phenomenal interviews from both ladies.
I think Denise Ham is 100% the fight to make if they're both on the same time scale to return. That's the fight to make. Angela Denise, that would be a good. But then Denise is kind of coming off a loss on paper, which
the UFC bantamweight division, both fighters are coming off losses and they're fighting for the title. So it doesn't really matter, right? If you come off a loss.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but yeah, I would be surprised if one gave Denise a title fight though, without getting her to win one more fight. Like obviously the Julia fight would have been perfect. Then she'd have been coming off a win had she won that fight. But yeah, I think Ham Denise is the fight to make. No other fight if they're both return roughly the same time.
Chris, do you think like the Filipino market is just too big to the point where they do need to put Denise in a major fight now because of the backlash that One Championship has taken recently?
They have taken huge loads of backlash from those absolutely probably the most passionate fans right out there. So you do have to respect that. But it is just really tough. And it's so hard to say without knowing what's going on with Denise because you know what? She might have been ready to fight in the semi-final if she would have won. She might have gone back to Thailand, or she's in Thailand at the moment, right? She could have gone back there, and she could just have a little niggly injury, and she thought, oh, I'm out of the tournament. I'll get a little bit of elective surgery to get it fixed. That's going to put me out. So you never know. If we would have found out Ham was out the day after, Denise, maybe that wouldn't have happened, or situation could have been totally different, and it is just so hard to say, but yeah, man, I think just hold Denise. I think she just needs to train out. And if I was her, be calling out Angela, be calling out Ham. You've got a few bad blood, and just be ready for the final because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Sorry, I unplugged my mic there.
Fit to compete on the card, who should they have chosen? Because it's kind of a lose-lose situation. You put Denise in there, you've already said Julie's the alternative. She's won. And if you put Julie in there, people are going to go, oh, Denise should have gone there. She rightfully won the fight anyway. If they did have the choice of both of them, it was a difficult situation. I don't think you could please anyone. Another quick point. I think someone mentioned it in the comments or tweet before. I think one of the troubles with having such passionate fan base in certain countries is when a decision doesn't go their way, you know about it. Whether they're right or wrong, you know about it. So that can be a little bit of a negative side of having such passionate fan bases from certain countries. They are so passionate and so behind their fighters.
Okay, well, we can debate this forever, but we don't have forever, so let's move on unless anyone has anything else.
Can I just add one last thing?
You may,
Julia Barber has no nickname. I think she needs to embrace her moment in this Grand Prix and either go for Wildcat or Alternate as her nickname and just embrace it for the Grand Prix.
Any other nicknames? Wildcat will do, yeah.
Yeah, Wildcat, no. Wildcard.
No, the Barber, that's her name.
The Barber, yeah. She can come out with shears,
Exactly, like Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
Well, she could take a look at Victoria Souza's book and just just have a nickname as Jules.
Jules. That makes no sense.
Souza, I know Victoria Souza. Her nickname is Vic, which isn't really a fighting nickname.
Oh, okay.
It's just a nickname of her name.
Yeah.
Did you say her name was Jaws or Jules?
Jules. I don't know if it was like in England. A lot of women that are called Julie are nicknamed Jules. People call them Jules.
Okay.
Jules the barber, me's the barber. I like that.
I'm being silly there. I like Wildcat.
Wildcat, yeah. Okay. Well, yes, I did mention earlier that Terrence had a question, so we can talk about Christian Lee now, guys. So Terrence said, thoughts on Christian Lee losing his belt? Is now the time to fight Eddie since he just called him out? I think, Terrence, they're going to rematch. Do you guys see any other possibility than Oak and Christian Lee rematching? I will start with Leon because he's at the top.
No, Charles, that's again a bit like similar to Denise and Ham. If they're both fit, that's the only fight to make. So yeah, I mean, whichever way the decision went, particularly as it went against Christian, I think the fact that a lot of people thought he won, although a lot of people thought he lost as well, that's the fight to make. I don't know if you noticed. I think most fans think Christian lost, and I think most people within the media think Christian won. From what I've noticed.
Well, let's go to John then, because he's second down. Where do you fall on this? I know we had the fight companion. Were you on that one? I think you were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember anymore. You probably gave your thoughts at the time, but yeah, what do you fall on? What the fallout of this whole event should be? And it's caused a lot of debate. Every morning I wake up, there's a new bunch of comments on our YouTube. Some people going for Oak, some people going for Christian, some people calling Christian a crybaby, some people calling Chattery
I've only had words I can't repeat. Christian in my video.
Yeah. But yeah, let's give your take, John. What do you think?
The best thing that has come out of this whole debacle is we got to see Christian Lee come out of his shell. That's what we got. We got to see him come out of his shell and call out the whole thing, just the whole like judging the judges and everything. And I'm glad he did that, right? Because there has been some iffy, questionable, can we say as far as like mentally disturbing like scorecards, right? It's not even a scorecard. 100%. It's just like you just say, oh, he won. Or he won. It doesn't really
mentally disturbing.
Yeah. Like I think what they need to do is just for the fans and also the fighters. I think the fighters need this too, is to show like how did these fighters get the decision? The judges have to show like, like in the US, in North America, they have the scorecards, right? We need to have scorecards. The one championship needs some kind of scorecard system that we can look at numbers or something that would justify that Oak won that fight or Christian won that fight, right?
There won't be any numbers involved, will there? Because they don't score per round. It would just be a W and an L. But are you talking about giving the judges accountability, saying the judge's name and which
interview the judges?
Yeah, something. We
interview the judges, or even on a smaller card. Why don't we have the judges just one time on a smaller card to get an idea of it? Why don't we have them like mic'd up and explain a fight and how they're scoring it and how it's going through? But you absolutely nailed it on the head. The best thing we have got from this is Christian Lee coming out of his shell. But I just think there's so many different changes we could make to the judging to just make it a little bit more open, because we don't totally know what's going on. I think a few weeks ago, Leon even suggested the idea of maybe in the second or the third round in a title fight of letting them know who's ahead. If the judges came out, say after the second round of a 3-rounder and say maybe the third or the fourth of a 5-rounder and said red corner's winning or blue corner's winning, I think it would make it a lot easier, right? And I think in that fight we saw with Christian Lee against Oak, I think it would have been fantastic, because if it would have been in the fourth, you would have had Christian Lee winning, and I think Oak might have put the gas down a little bit more, because it was close, but I think it just could have pushed it up to that next level.
I kind of agree, but then it's up to the corner to be honest and say, right, you're losing. And I don't think that happened in this fight. And that happens in many fights. I think we talked about the UFC. I think the commentator talking about Lauren's team were telling her that she was doing a great job when she was obviously being dominated in every second of the fight. But it's difficult because obviously in one, there's not scoring per round. So it's the judges don't really think, oh, they're winning at the moment. I guess they don't really think about that as a collective until the end of the fight. But open scoring is a funny one, even in scoring per round. There's a debate whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. And I think they've tried it in Invicta. But yeah, I don't think you need to do that necessarily I mean, kind of agreeing with Chris. Oak, although he was losing the fight, Christian was gassed. I kept going on about the other night. If he had put his foot down to the pedal for the 4th and 5th round, he almost certainly would have won. Well, he won anyway, but fairly, well, I don't know if fairly is the right word, but you know what I mean, concisely, or even got the finish. But for the 4th and 5th round, he just took his foot off the pedal.
Yeah, more than anything, I feel like, you know, watching that fight and looking at it and looking at the responses of the fans, it's more of Oak. In my eyes, he could have won that fight because Leon mentioned Christian was really gassed and he kind of was waiting to like blast off for like 10, 15, 20 seconds and then chill out. And then, you know, that's he conserving his gas tank, right? So he could go all 5 rounds. I feel mostly it's that Oak lost that fight rather than he won that fight. You know what I mean? Like, I think Christian, he was winning. He was so far ahead in the first 2 rounds where it was like Oak had to start thinking mentally that he is playing catch up, but didn't seem like that so much, even though he was winning the fight towards the end. But then Christian flipped it again in the 5th round and he came back, right, for that short moment. And I felt like thinking about the fight again and then reviewing it, I think Christian had the near finishes and he dominated. He got closer to finishing the fight than Oak ever did, right? Oak did knock him down, but I feel like Christian knocked him down also and went for those submissions, right? Mm-hmm. That score is higher. And exactly. And I see a comment where they're talking about Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson thought Christian lost. Don't listen to those people.
I think you make a good point. I was thinking about this the other day. I think one need to as well explain the basic rules at the beginning of a fight card. Explain the one scoring criteria. So you can see it's near finishes, it's damage, and it goes all the way down to, I think, the control or aggressiveness is at the bottom. So fans can see at the beginning of each card, right, this is how they score it. Because I think if you look at, like I said a minute ago, the difference between what the media think of the result of that fight and the fans, they're the complete opposite. Because we know, obviously, very well the scoring criteria, whereas I don't think one ever reveal it, do they? Have they ever revealed it? I mean, we've mentioned it here and there. I think Dan Hardy mentioned it in one of his videos he'd done, but when has one championship ever mentioned it? So how can they expect fans to know how the fights are scored if they've never told them?
Well, I think they mentioned it on the broadcast on the weekend, but I think they only did it at the very beginning of the prelims and not even on the main card. But then also on top of that, I think a lot of people in the West, particularly from what I gather and from what I thought of one before I started watching it, I thought it was judged more similar to Pride, where you chose if the fight was going to keep going, who do you think was going to win? I think a lot of people that I speak to, my friends in the States, in the UK, they kind of view one championship in that way. They don't actually go onto the website and read the rules. So Big John and Josh Thompson might have seen it that way.
I just want to say as well, 2 things I said on Friday night that I didn't really mean. Well, I did mean it. That I want to take back a bit. One is I said Christian definitely wins the rematch because he's going to be so pissed off and he's going to be. But then thinking back about the fight, Oak looked amazing, really. Apart from the fact I think he threw away the fight in a way, the 4th and 5th round. He was just Christian Lee's kryptonite. His takedown defense was brilliant. He was tough. So even with the fire lit under Christian, I wouldn't say it's 100% that he's going to win the rematch, which I thought on Friday night. And also in the post-fight press conference, I said to Christian, "Oh yeah, I know you're dominating every aspect." That was just rolling my tongue. He didn't dominate every aspect, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the thing is as well, we have to give so much respect to Oak, because if you do look over Christian's list results against Edward Kelly, Aoki, Nasty Yukin, Lapicus, they've all been very good finishes, very dominant wins. And this was a very, very close fight. So we totally have to respect that. The one thing I would say is if you would have said if this fight would have been maybe even judged on a 10-point must system, or if this fight would have been 10 rounds, Oak would have won 100%. Because Christian at some point was going down, right? If you were going to judge it on if they kept on fighting, who would win, Oak was going to win all day.
Well, let's look at what Angela said, because I don't know if you guys saw this as well. I saw it a little bit late, but she put some interesting comments in as well about this. Of course, she weighed in on her brother's side. It'd be strange if she didn't. If she came out and said, "I thought Oak won."
It's funny the fact that she said just a couple of weeks ago that never leave in the hands of the judges, and then obviously,
yeah, she pretty much she fucked herself over here because she said, never leave in the hands of the judges, blah blah blah, and then she tried to style it out and give an explanation. But yes, she was not happy. She listed all the. I'm just waiting for this to load. Sorry, but she listed all the one criteria and said Christian met all of those criteria and more, and he had the takedowns, submission attempts, knocked him down twice. Sorry, I don't know why it's not loading, but yeah. Not surprised, of course, Angela is weighing in on her brother's side, but
I thought personally it was more clear cut than the Denise fight, because the Denise fight was
yes
kind of two fighters really that neither of them really done anything proactive. I mean, Denise had a lot of the control, but she didn't really do anything. And then I think Nick's explanation, maybe getting concussed a few weeks before, obviously a good reason why she wasn't more aggressive. Ham, maybe she had an injury going into the fight, which is obviously maybe it's the same injury now or related, or maybe it's not related. But yeah, for me, going on the one criteria, the fact he almost finished the fight and scored more damage.
Can I just ask a question for the rest of the panel? Actually, we're all going on about the judging, really, and we're being very subjective on that. But just to flip it, maybe there's a problem with the criteria. Maybe we need more detailed criteria. Maybe there's a problem in that sense of it.
That's a good question.
Just to play devil's advocate, right? Because we were all bashing the judges, and no one is looking the other way. But like, maybe it's time to change the criteria. Maybe we need just a rejig of the criteria or to make it more straightforward.
I like the criteria because I think, like Chapter kind of says,
I do, but we seem to be getting a lot of problems as of late, and it doesn't seem to be doing much better than Invicta with its open score and the UFC with its 10-9 must system. Maybe it's a criteria we have to look at.
Well, if you look at the criteria, right? I'm sorry to cut you off, Leon. If you look at the criteria, right, it's in order: judging criteria, near KO submission, damage, striking combinations, and cage generalship, earn takedowns and takedown defense, aggression, right? So if you look at the first slot, near KO submission, now with Christian, he had, I believe, 2 moments, right, where he had the near submission, which was the one that was in the picture. That's a beautiful picture. Whoever took it, that was a nice little picture against the cage. And then the second one was when he knocked him down. I think whenever you knock someone down from a punch or a strike, that could be considered a near KO. Don't you think so? Wouldn't you put that in that category, right? So
definitely.
even with ground and pound, I feel like if the ground and pound is serious enough to where the fighter is like really, in deep trouble, I feel like that would be a near KO too, right? So you got to look at that. And that's why I think it should be more transparent. I think the judges should be able to show those categories and what did they put into those categories as like a near finish or near KO on either side for Christian or for Oak. And then, the damage, is it facial damage? Is it leg damage? Is it arm damage? Is it body damage to the ribs? What kind of damage are you looking at to score it for Christian? Like that's the detail I want from the judges. And I feel like you could do that during the fight while you're watching it because you're cage side. It's not like you're in Korea in some basement yelling at a microphone, right? You're actually there doing your thing as a professional. And I feel like that would help us understand what the judges saw. And we need to know who the judges are. I think they say their names, but because we don't get to see any like scorecard or anything, we don't care, right? But now it's becoming a serious problem where these decisions are being overturned, or not even overturned, but the competition committee is, mulling over, these decisions. And I feel like to stop all of that, because at the end of the day, we really don't want a competition committee. I'm a person that doesn't want it. I'm feeling like we don't need it. So to to get rid of that, we should just let the judges show us why they scored the fight for Christian or for Oak. But I'm happy for Oak because,
because we never even
a win is a win. I'm just saying.
Yep, we never even get to see the judges' notes because I would assume during a fight, particularly a 5-round fight, they're taking notes. We never get to see their notes. I've tried to follow the criteria and score a fight myself. I'm not saying I'm a judge, but when I do it, every round I write down 2, 3, 4 sentences about what's going on with the fight. Then at the end of every round, I generally say who I think's ahead, and then I move on to the next round. I would assume that's how most other people would judge it. And I mean, even just releasing those notes would just give us a little bit more of an idea what's going on, because I do at the end of every round say who I think's winning. Maybe just even if we get that, just a tick in the red or the blue box after every round as some sort of informal scorecard. Maybe that would give us some sort of idea and a little bit more transparency to what's going on.
Maybe we could have our own scoring during the fight companions.
Mm-hmm. Do verdict cover one championship?
No, verdict covers nothing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't think verdict covers one championship. But I don't really go on.
As well, all 3 judges gave Oak the win. Normally, I mean, we've all agreed it was a very close fight, particularly to look at. If you didn't think about the scoring criteria, it was even closer fight, I think. But all 3 gave the fight to Oak. And how about more judges? More than 3 judges?
Nah, that just I've seen that happen, like here, and it just confuses everything. Like the more the judges, it makes it weird because sometimes, what if you have it's like a lot of draws happen in fights where there's 5 judges, like 2 judges score for this guy, 2 judges score for the other guy, and then 1 judge gives it a draw. I've seen that happen.
You can't get draws in one, can you? Because you have 5 judges, and each
the problem is
voted who they thought what won. You'd have 5-0, 4-1, or 3-2 every time.
Yeah, but the problem is we're all criticizing judges, and sometimes the answer, when the problem we're saying is judges, the answer might not be more judges, if you know what I mean. And a 2-1 split decision, changing it to a 3-2, in the grand scheme of things, does that really make a difference? I don't know.
Okay, well, I did get to Angela's comments there eventually, but I think you all saw it on screen. So, yeah, she was basically saying that Christian was looking to finish the fight all the time, yada, yada. And we always go to finish the fight. There it is. My brother and I have always fought with urgency to finish. Christian even holds the record for the most finishes in one championship history. We are constantly pressing for the finish, which should mean the global rule set should work in our favor, brackets, if judged correctly, because near finishes score the highest on the scorecards. Sometimes the greatest fights end in a decision by going down the list of one's judging criteria. It's clear Christian did more to win the fight than Oak Yoon. Always go for the finish to avoid leaving judges' hands. That's what Christian did. The judging needs to be more transparent, and these judges need to be held responsible.
But the problem is,
I think we all agree, everything in every MMA promotion needs to be more transparent. The more transparency we have in all aspects, the better.
if you have in a fight in one championship, in the 5-round fight, the first round you have 2 very near finishes, but then on the second criteria, the end of the fight, one guy's bleeding everywhere, broken nose, broken jaw, he's absolutely battered, and he's got the most damage done, but the other guy hasn't really had a near finish. How do you really score that? We don't really have a full explanation of that, right?
We do not. John KL suggests, why not have 9 judges like the Supreme Court? WMA Signal, hello, Chuck saying, from my basement, I thought the fight could have gone either way. Christian faded hard in the championship rounds, and I always thought the latter part of the fight held more weight. It's a tough one. I don't begrudge those judges having to make that decision, but it was unanimous, wasn't it?
Never leave it in the judge's hands. I think that's one of the most ridiculous sayings ever. That's like saying in the Wimbledon final, if you don't win in straight sets easily, it doesn't count. It's going to be they may just give the win to the opposition. When you get the elite fight and the elite, there's 0.1, 0.2% percentage difference between sometimes. So you can't always get a finish. I think that's ridiculous.
Fight to the death, says Tan. Don't want to see anyone die. No, in all seriousness, it's a tough one, and yeah,
I think it's great for the Lees though. I like them more than ever. I like Christian Lee more than I've ever liked him. I like it, man. I like them getting a little bit angry. I like them getting a bit fired up. And I think in the long term this is good for them because they've always had the criticism that everything goes the Lee's way in one championship, and now they can put a little bit of silence to that notion and probably move on with it. He's 24. If he's still fighting in 5, 6, 10 years, no one's going to even be talking about this, and it's going to be long forgotten.
I agree with trying not to leave it in the judges' hands. That's kind of what the one scoring criteria encourages. But the saying of don't leave it in the judges' hands, that's what's ridiculous to me. And the other thing I was going to say, we've talked about judging, but like more so in the UFC for years, now one more recently, but nothing ever seems to be done about it. Particularly, we've talked about it in UFC for years, and nothing has ever been done. I mean, it's good to have these conversations about anything with this controversy, but shouldn't we see some changes, or something?
The UFC really is the only one that can really do anything about it because they're the only one that has so many shows. They have their association with LFA. They have Dana White Contender Series. They actually have the scope to be like, oh, on Dana White's Contender Series, we're going to try out this alternative to scoring for this season, or we're going to try this out in LFA, or even just on LFA prelims, because they have a lot of power and they have so much product that they're the only ones who can really experiment. And when was the last time the UFC experimented? UFC 1?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
the UFC is always experimenting with everything.
I think just having a 10-point must scoring system in MMA based on the boxing model is just ridiculous. The fact that it was ever happened in the first place is kind of ridiculous, and the fact that all these years later they're still doing it.
You know why they're doing it? Because it's just easier to follow for like a casual person that's watching.
And it's the same kind of committees, isn't it, that run the boxing and the MMA, like the Nevada State.
Yeah, there's no MMA commission. It's just all like combat sports, basically, athletic commissions, right?
Yes, it's easier for them, but then.
Yeah, I don't think more judges is the answer. I just think that we need to see how these judges came up with the decision. That's all we need to see. Like at least like in the Western world, you got the 20, 28, 29s and all that. And we understand that because it's easy to understand. For a casual fan, for us, easy to understand. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, some of the judges and what they saw, but that's always going to happen. Okay, we can't fix that. But what we can fix is what we see, right? And then I think one championship, since they're so groundbreaking and like they're so revolutionary, even that show was called One Revolution, right? I don't even know if that makes a connection. But we need to have a revolution, right? And this is part of the revolution, is to change how we perceive the fight at the end when the all 15 minutes is done or all 25 minutes is done. What did the judges see? We need to see that and get rid of the competition committee, because even like I think it almost seems like fighters are thinking that competition committee is like a baby car seat for them. It's like some kind of like safe latch, like an extra parachute in their bag if something doesn't go their way. So that's just like my final thoughts on that whole thing. But they should just have an immediate rematch to quell all of the back and forth. No competition committee. Do it as soon as possible. Actually, do it before the year is up, because that rematch, I think, will have a lot of heat going into it. Because Christian, I feel like he's turned a corner and he's going to go deep. And I can't wait to talk to him.
I want to say quickly, though, scoring the fight as a whole is even more simple. I mean, I love simple. The more simple, the better. And although the 10-point must scoring system is quite simple, it's not simple as just saying you win, you lose. But I agree what we've agreed on. There does need to be transparency. And the more we can see where the judges are coming from, perhaps have a lead judge. And then after each card, the lead judge speaks on behalf of the rest of the judges and explains any questions, any controversy. And I think that would work really well. Yeah, I think also the Oak Christian Lee rematch. I think on Oak's side as well, obviously we know Christian Lee's going to be pumped for this. Oak as well. he thought he was a little bit disrespected. I don't think he's too impressed with me saying I thought he was losing after 3 rounds. Well, I was just being honest, but he thought he was winning the fight and he won the fight clearly. So he's frustrated that people think he lost the fight, and I said to him as well, has this taken a bit of the shine off winning the belt, the fact that it is controversy? And he said yes. So he's going to be pumped for it. He's going to look at it and probably go, you know what, maybe I was losing 4th, 5th round. I could have done a lot more, and I could have made a statement. He could be the world champion now and be the main man if he just put his foot. He didn't look tired.
See, this is the thing.
Wasn't even out of breath.
This is the thing. If they get this before the end of the year, if you're Oak's team, that's exactly what you want. You want it as soon as possible. You've seen you've got the superior cardio. You've seen your striking got in. You know more what to do, and you're more expectant of it. I really, really think the faster it is, I think the more it suits Oak and not Christian, because you're not going to double your gas tank in 6 weeks. That's not how strength and conditioning works.
That's a great point. Yeah, the sooner the fight, the less time Christian has to overcome the mistakes. And that's a great point. But I think
it's very easy. It's very easy over 8 weeks to really, really focus on your grappling and add something new to that game or add some more takedown defense. But in 8 weeks or 10 weeks, to be able to double your gas tank in strength and conditioning, that's almost impossible because you're going straight into fight camp pretty much.
I agree, but I think someone asked Oak in the post-fight interview if he's in a rush to the rematch, and he didn't seem like he was in a rush. I think he said obviously he needs time to heal because he was a bit battered up. So I think the ideal card would be 1X. That huge fight, huge card. That would be ideal. Christian probably wants it as soon as possible. I don't think he's thinking the more time I have, the better. I think he wants to run it back ASAP. But will Oak be ready and willing in December? I think we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, I'm getting blamed in the comments here for something I didn't do. Sepulot blaming me for bringing up the competition committee and the possibility to Denise after she lost and getting Chatter excited. I mean, I'm sure all the fighters are aware of this competition committee already, and she probably her team were already banging the drum for her.
Denise's team wouldn't have contested anything at all if Nick hadn't said anything. They were actually happy with the result until Nick said something, and then they thought, actually, you know what? I feel hard done by.
Just to everyone out there, Elite XC, Strike Force, Pride, they were all taken down by one man, Nick Atkins. Took them down.
Nasty Nick.
Nasty Nick.
All right,
sorry,
breaking news, Nick. Breaking news.
Yeah.
I got some information.
Uh-oh.
All right, so what had happened is with Ham. So she's going to be out for 2 months. So up to 2 months she could be gone. This is what I heard. And it's an injury to her hand. I think it was a broken finger, something like that. And because of the broken finger, like it lodged into something in her finger. That's why the injury is taking much longer to heal. So
from the fight.
No, I don't think it's from the fight. I think
training
it's from
since then.
Yeah, training since then. So so that could happen on like when you're like posting your hand, or like let's say someone like try to take you down, you could post your hand and your finger could break off that, or just in a grappling exchange. I don't know exactly how it happened, but that's the information I'm getting, is that she's going to be out up to 2 months. And a quick recovery to Ham. You know what I mean? No matter what the situation is, you don't want these fighters to get injured and be out for too long. So hopefully she's back early 2022.
2 months on the sides, or 2 months until she can fight again? Because if she can fight again in 2 months, she would have been fit and able on 1X.
I don't think that's going to happen because it's a finger. So I don't know if you're going to train with like one hand.
2 months out and then time to get back. Yeah. Cool. So that's something. I mean, if the hand would have been fit and able in December, it would have been more frustrating, the fact that she's been pulled from the card, pulled from the Grand Prix.
Well, thanks for breaking that news, John. That's awesome.
I think it's broken, so I don't know. Maybe.
I thought you had just discovered it and were releasing it out into the wild on this show.
Well, I was getting information from somebody that has information, so I don't know if that's out there in the world, but they said it's all good. So
it is now.
Nick broke Hamza's finger.
Yeah. Blame me for everything.
with this
I can
voodoo
see that.
magic.
None of this
Yeah.
Nick. It's nasty Nick now.
Nasty Nick.
Yeah, that's it.
Nasty
Oh
Nick.
my god. Oh my god. All right. Well, I know Leon's got to jet off soon, so we'll try and keep this to an hour. I did want to talk about the big topic. How can we not? Jon Jones. Oh my god, guys. Yes, the news broke just as I was wrapping up my One Championship fight night after my 4 a.m. was the last thing I published, I think. Just about to go to bed, Drake texts me saying, "Oh, have you seen what Jon Jones has done?" Like, no. Oh my god, I can't deal with this right now. I told him, you can write something and I'll put it up in the morning. But yeah, we've got the details now of what actually happened. It's been released in TMZ. There's the mugshot of the man himself. Just bad stuff, isn't it? So the update is that he's promised to never drink again. I feel like we've heard that before.
I don't know if he's
Yeah.
actually ever said that before. To be fair, he probably should have said it before. But
Well,
I
he
don't
got
recall him
done
ever
for a drinking, a DUI, whatever you call them in America, shooting his gun, didn't he? At 4 a.m. You would have probably given him alcohol after that, I thought.
But yeah, I
Anyway.
don't recall him ever saying he's going to stop drinking before. I
He
think
probably
he said he's
should
going to cut back and have a look at himself and blah blah blah. But I don't recall him. I might be wrong. I don't recall him ever saying I'm never drinking ever again.
Well, anyway, here are the details. Jon Jones allegedly pulled his fiance's hair and then headbutted a police car, leaving a dent in the hood. But it actually gets a lot more sinister. There was a domestic disturbance in the hotel rooms. It sounds like she was in bed, his fiance, when he came back from a night out after the Hall of Fame ceremony. She was bleeding from her nose and mouth, and when police arrived, they spotted Jon walking near the hotel. They stopped and detained him. Jones became irate, smashed his head onto the hood. While handcuffed, police say Jones experienced a wide range of emotions. He threatened to sue the cops for handcuffing him on the biggest night of his life. The officers also claimed Jon joked about wanting to fight all the cops to see if he could take them all on at the same time. Police interviewed Jon's fiancée, Jessie, and she's the mother of his 3 children, who claimed she was asleep when Jones came back into their room. Jessie told the police Jon came back and was not happy. When they asked her if things turned physical, she replied, not too physical, but a little, yeah. When cops asked what she meant, Jessie said, he touched the back of my head. However, cops said they noticed blood on her lip, which was also swollen. Jessie told cops it was because they were dry. Police also say they saw blood on her shirt. Police said there was blood on the bed sheets as well. Detectives, the police. So apparently it was one of the Jessie, his fiance, and one of the children ran down at 4 a.m. Security guard said he saw blood on her and asked Jessie if she's okay. The guard claimed Jessie began to cry and said she was scared to return to her room. Guard then claims Jessie and Jon's youngest child said, "Can you call the cops?" Court date scheduled next month. So that is all from TMZ. So I just wanted to get all the real facts that are out there. I just want to say them all. I don't want to make up. I don't want to insinuate anything, but that is what is out there. So based on all of that information, guys, go to Chris first, I guess. What do you make?
Just looking at that picture, he's 34 years old. In the last 5 years, he's aged about 15 years. This is a man living a hard and fast life. You know, you look at him, even a few years ago, he looked fairly fresh-faced. It's not a good look. Guess he's got some bruising from headbutting the police vehicle. Just so everyone knows, this is only going to get worse. Because I think Las Vegas Police Department have confirmed that their police officers were wearing body cams. And they always get released or leaked somehow. He was staying at a casino at the time. One thing we all know about casinos is there's cameras everywhere. So that footage will probably get leaked over time. It's a terrible time for his fiancée. Domestic violence. This is probably the worst that Jon Jones has done. It's just terrible. I don't think we'll see him fight within a year. He says he's given up alcohol because of all the trauma and he's just drank too much in his life. There was also drugs involved, which is not always a good look. And it's just so hard where to start. And there's never been one man to just absolutely destroy his own career over and over and over again. He's going to have a really rough time, I think, going forward. And it's just, what did the UFC do with him? Do they just suspend him and keep him out of any fighting and making money and give him some sort of forced unemployment? Who knows? And yeah, I'm going to have to pass it on to the one person who has a bigger rap sheet than Jon Jones, and that's Leon. Because Jon Jones has only ever been arrested in America. How many countries you been arrested in, Leon? Three more, 3 times the amount of Jon Jones.
Yeah, about that. And normally alcohol's involved as well.
Yeah.
I haven't been burglary.
But yeah, Leon, you might as well jump in then.
Well, yeah, I think Chris summed up pretty well, really. I mean, what can you say? I mean, like Danny said, it's not disappointing anymore. It's not really shocking anymore. It's kind of expected. I mean, the bit of the telling thing for me was the fact he was going from, sad to joking around, and that's a very different to the last Jon Jones who got arrested. He was just in tears and upset. So he was obviously quite frazzled to be his emotions to be changing back and forth. It takes quite a bit of whatever to be digested to be that up and down in that sort of situation. But look at that mugshot. I don't know what he's doing with his moustache. I mean, I'd have arrested him just for that.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Jon Jones, right? He's 34 years old. He's made millions and millions of dollars. His father was a pastor. His 2 brothers play in the NFL. He seems like he comes from a good family. He seems like he's been given almost every opportunity. And we just have to start asking, how many opportunities can we give this guy?
I think he's out of second chances, to be honest. I think even Dana's fed up with him. He said, this guy, we can't even bring him to Vegas for 12 hours to induct him into the Hall of Fame without him doing some crazy shit. Dana said he's got a lot of demons. I agree. Look, I'm no saint. I'm not want to judge his character too much, but I've probably had issues with alcohol in my life, but I don't go and do shit like that. I don't, the horrendous stuff he's done here. I just can't see why the UFC can keep him now. Honestly, I think they should cut him for his own sake, for his own good. He's not gonna change unless you need that come to Jesus moment, right? He's a religious guy. He's got a good support system, you'd hope, around him, like his family, like you mentioned, Chris. And he's got his faith. So sometimes you need to, the only option is the nuclear option. It's take away everything you've earned and fought for. And if he can't fight and earn money, that's his livelihood, So I think that's the only option here.
His brothers are like NFL players. They're Super Bowl winners. They have millions of dollars. And they're big guys. They can literally put their arms around him and say, hey, brother, we're putting you on a private jet. You're going to rehab. We're going to get you serious counseling to help get you over your trauma, to get you over your problems, right? The dad is a pastor. They have a lot of great opportunities here. So, you would think particularly his older brother would just be able to put an arm around him and be like, you've got to do this. Because you're going to do not only that, he's going to destroy his own legacy, but he's going to destroy his own relationship with the mother of his children. And I mean, look, who was the last famous combat athlete to get arrested in Las Vegas for beating the mother of their children? That was Floyd Mayweather, and he got a 12-month sentence. And what was it, 4 months was he in jail, 100 days, something like that? I mean, it's not great for Jon Jones going forward.
I don't think there'll be much. I don't think much legal action will be done, because I think his girlfriend, his fiance, won't press charges, and I think without that, I don't think there's a lot. I might be wrong. A lot the law can do. I think with the UFC, they'll give him a fight again. If you're a big name, they just like Dana said, they'll see how the legal side plays out. But they'll have if you're a big name and you can bring in revenue, he'll fight again.
But is he not tainted goods now? Is he going to be such a draw? I think people are losing patience with him. And
Nick, you bring up a good question. Is like you mentioned earlier that you think they should cut Jon Jones, but to be honest with you, even if they cut Jon Jones, it doesn't matter. It's almost like they might want him. They might want, not they might want him. He wants to be cut, because think about the opportunities that he has as Jon Jones. A lot of people will overlook all of these arrests, all of this, because it's sports. A lot of times in sports, people overlook those things and then just push forward. And especially in combat sports, they look at Floyd Mayweather, like you said, he was arrested, like he did some time, maybe, he paid a lot of money, fines and counseling and all of that. And he still fought. He still made millions of dollars after that. And it was multiple times that this has happened with Floyd Mayweather, not just once. And with Jon Jones, I don't think cutting him will solve anything. But at the same time, if they do cut Jon Jones, Nick, this is a question for you. I know you're the host. Will it impact the UFC any? In my opinion, I don't think it impacts the UFC any, because Jon Jones hasn't fought in almost 2 years, and the UFC is doing really well without him. They have new stars now that they could focus on and not worry about this crime.
The only reason I would say suspending is they're not suspending him based on code of conduct. I think you suspend him for his own good. I actually think he needs suspending. They need to put in some sort of clause like you need to attend rehab, get a certificate, be clean, get regularly drug tested, because they need something from him, because otherwise it is just bad press. He doesn't make the UFC any money. The UFC is so strong. So why would the UFC want this bad publicity? To me, that's the issue, right? Because there's a point, right? If he goes and wins the heavyweight title, which sponsor wants the heavyweight champion of the world to be a guy who's always in the news for the wrong reasons? Because the thing, when you look at Floyd Mayweather, his domestic violence and everything outside the ring is a footnote in his career. But like when you speak to people who aren't big MMA fans and you say Jon Jones, one thing they know is he wins a lot of fights and he's always getting into trouble with the police. When you speak to people about Floyd Mayweather, domestic violence actually comes a long way down the list. And that's the issue for me. And the one thing I want to say is, and it actually makes me feel sympathy for Greg Hardy, because he gets a lot more hate at UFC events than Jon Jones. And his domestic violence was all the way back in 2014, back when he was something like 26, 25 years old, 9 years younger than Jon Jones. And, just a separate thing, right? It's totally hard to say. Hard to judge really where this is going to go.
That's a perfect example. Greg Hardy is people overlooking those criminal activities, right? Domestic violence and all that stuff.
But he did get cut from the NFL first.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. This is his last chance saloon.
And his second option was combat sports. So you go from the NFL to mixed martial arts. With Jon Jones, even if he gets suspended or cut by the UFC, I could see Jon Jones, because like fighting and in sports and athletics, ego is like a huge part of every athlete, every fighter. So I could see Jon Jones, if his ego's that big, he'll have one of those Scarface moments, like make room for the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like that's who he is now. Like he needs to embrace it. Like, I don't want him to get arrested for domestic violence and headbutting a police car, which is insane. Like, where's the marks on his head? Like, isn't this his mugshot? What's going on? Like, is that even true?
I think that's why his brow is a little bit more pronounced as usual, right?
Like,
his head looks a bit.
Cards quite soft, aren't they? Unless you hit like a.
Did he knock off some of the hair on his mustache when he headbutted the police car? What was happening right here?
Have you guys heard what the police officers have said? Apparently, back in the cell, and apparently they've got it all on body camera. Apparently, he said like something along the lines of, take off all your equipment, 7 or 8 of you. Let's just fight, and if I win, let me go, or something along those lines. Wow. Trying to take it back to that wild, wild west days. But this is going to look worse when the body camera footage comes out and he's swearing and he's being aggressive towards police officers and being aggressive towards a police car. And someone in that casino, right? Some waiter who hasn't got the tips they wanted, or some doorman or someone is going to find the tapes of Jon Jones walking around that casino, because been to a casino, cameras everywhere, and it's going to be released, and it's going to be even more embarrassing for everyone involved in this. It's not going to get better.
Last time it was embarrassing. I think people felt sorry for him because he was sobbing and he just felt sorry for himself. I think he got a lot of sympathy for that. I think that's not going to be the case this time at all.
No,
especially if domestic violence involved.
People are dumping on Jon Jones, and justifiably so. I think that it's hard to say what they do, because it's all up to Jon Jones. We could do this, they could do that, but at the end of the day, it's Jon Jones. Does he want to get better? Does he want to be a better human? Because did you watch his Hall of Fame speech? His Hall of Fame speech was like just giving credit to his team and to his fiance and his daughters, and like how big of an impact his fiance has had on his life, and he would never be where he is right now without her. And then the next day he gets into this scuffle with his fiance.
It's not even the next day, right? Isn't it the same night? It's the early hours of
okay.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. It was around 5 a.m. So this is the thing, right? Isn't coming out and crying during your Hall of Fame speech and giving all this love and showing how nice a guy you are and pretending to be religious, etc., and then doing this kind of behavior. This either shows the cycle of someone who has a serious mental issue and desperately needs help, or this is the symbol of someone who's just an absolute sociopath, got on stage in front of a hall full of people, lied through the teeth, and just doesn't give a damn. And you've got to ask people in his corner, his coaches, his friends, Winklejohn, like, is there a point, right? If he keeps going this way, it's going to look bad on you. No one actually wants to be the guy who coached the guy who was in a freefall death spiral, right?
Well, yeah. Then there's the fact he hid under the cage that time, and he's even admitted it since, saying it's because he had been smoking weed. So,
well, everyone else says it's because he's injecting stuff in his arse.
Oh yeah, I'm saying what he said it's because of weed, but apparently they weren't even testing for weed back then. So he kind of almost dobbed himself in. But my point was agreeing with you by saying that everyone in the gym knew he'd done that. He was hiding under there. So he kind of by admitting it as well, he kind of threw the rest of the gym and his coaches under the bus because they'd known about it and defended him and not said anything. Mm-hmm. So then how can you trust them fully as well if they know what Jon Jones has been up to?
Yeah, 100%.
Crazy.
It is tough to say where he goes. I don't know. I think if I was him, I think his family, I don't think he's going to fight for a year. I think he's going to have a court case. I think he needs to get himself cleaned. I think he needs to get himself a therapist. If he still wants to continue doing MMA, I'd even consider changing gym and just get out to some gym for 3-6 months in somewhere like Utah, Saudi, Bahrain, somewhere that's dry, somewhere that's got no alcohol.
Quite quiet, isn't it? From what I gather. So it's not as if he's Albuquerque. I don't think
doesn't Albuquerque have like a big drinking scene, a lot of meth? It's close to the border.
Heisenberg's out there, I hear.
Like that's what I'm saying. Get to a dry country like Saudi, get to parts of Utah, get somewhere that's dry, right? And get yourself away from alcohol, right? He's rich enough, he can fly his own whole team out to Saudi. And in Saudi, you're not getting any alcohol, you're not getting any drugs. You know, money's not a problem.
His girlfriend might be safer in Saudi Arabia as well than living with Jon Jones.
All right, well, yeah, that's it, I guess. Anything else anyone wanted to talk about? Otherwise, we can go.
I think we should get up a couple of Hazy's comments on the side. They're quite funny.
Yeah. I'll just throw one more thing very quickly about Jon Jones. If he were to fight for the UFC and win the heavyweight championship, is it a good look for him going to court for domestic violence, being the heavyweight champion? Probably makes everything look worse, right?
I don't think they're going to let him fight until like this is all figured out. Like he, gets his punishment and he resolves it all. I don't think the UFC is even going to mention him unless someone brings it up.
The Reyes fight was January 2020?
Yeah.
So he's going to go at least 2.5 years without a fight, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you think we're going to see him maybe 2 years, 3 years, go back into the cage? And do you think we're going to see him look like Nick Diaz? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's interesting, his mindset, the fact that he said he wants to get up to 275 pounds before he competes at heavyweight. He's got such a kind of fixed mindset, which is crazy considering how successful he is. And I think growth mindset is the key to growth and becoming the best. But he just doesn't seem to be prepared to do anything that's outside his comfort zone or anything risky. I think we've talked about this before. Like the BJ Penns of the world have gone up. Like Israel, when he went up, he didn't put on a lot of weight. They're willing to really take a risk. Jon Jones just doesn't seem to want to take a risk. And he mentioned it before when he was partying all the time. He said he partied all the time. So if he lost, he could have an excuse. I only lost because I was partied last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how successful he's been with a fixed mindset. It just defies logic.
Leon, you just mentioned BJ Penn. and he was fighting in a car park against a man,
Yeah.
who wanted to fight, and he got cut from the UFC. Jon Jones, on the other hand, is fighting a woman who doesn't want to throw down, and he might not get cut. Is that fair in retrospect?
So when I mentioned BJ Penn, I was talking about his inside the
Yeah.
octagon. But yeah, you make I mentioned someone
No,
there
'cause
who's
the
got
guy
the history
BJ
as
Penn
well
was
of
fighting
trouble
wanted to
outside the
fight
octagon.
him.
So
That's it, right?
yeah,
Just reading some interesting comments from Cormier. Actually, might be worth just.
I just read his interview this morning. Yeah, where he said-
Yeah, go check out DC and RC, everyone. But just some of it is quite interesting. Yeah, saying
I read
DC
the MMA
seems to
fighting one.
blame. Oh, okay, yeah. Seems like DC kind of says I blame myself for this because I didn't beat Jon Jones. Chael Sonnen didn't beat him. So many people didn't beat him. We never forced him to look in the mirror because all of his bad behavior still led to success. And so why change it? Why change it? It's unfortunate. And he said when
Was
he
he
saw him
saying-
on the red carpet with his family, so he had his little girls there, and DC said I felt happy for Jon. You know, his children are growing up. He had his family with him. He's going to be celebrated. Then he goes out and does something like that to remind me why I felt so strong about disliking him.
His daughters are going to see this all over the news, and that's the biggest shame.
No, but they were there throughout the whole thing.
They saw the violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the kids went down with the mother to the security guard, and the kid was like, "You need to call the cops."
Oh damn!
How old are
Yeah.
his girls? Do we know?
I don't know actually.
They're not young. They're I think some of them
10-ish?
they're like in their elementary school, maybe middle school age. Something like
What's
that.
that like? How old? Elementary, middle school?
Old enough to remember everything that's gonna happen. That's happened.
Mm.
I think that's the most important part. Is like
I
they're
thought-
old enough to know what happened and remember everything clearly.
I kind of like what DC said because he obviously, in that situation, he could easily have kicked the man while he's down, and he didn't really. He was quite honest, and like he said, he just kind of gave an honest opinion about it. Really,
That's a weird reaction though to it. He said that he blames himself because he didn't beat Jon Jones. It's like, what?
I think he's trying to say that Jon Jones has never been humbled. He's just got the
Yeah.
sport. Everything's been easy for him. He hasn't lost fights, so he's been like, okay, I need to get myself clean now. I need to change everything around. I don't know. I think that's what he's trying to sell, right? I don't agree with it, but why not?
Well, yeah, go read that interview or go watch it on DC and RC. I think it's on the.
Yeah, you don't need to go to MMA Junkie.
Yeah.
Just watch stuff on YouTube and read SCMP MMA and
Yeah.
Asian Persuasion MMA. Everything else,
No, actually, I do like MMA Junkie. I think they are the best out there. I read them; they're my go-to if I have a choice. I
I'm
always
more of an
give them
MMA
some
fighting
love.
man. MMA Junkie is my number 2.
I prefer the journalists to MMA Junkie. I think
For me, because I'm a simple person with simple vocabulary, MMA fighting, I like it's just very simply written, very.
Well, right now, I love being on screen with the number 1, number 2, and number 3 pound for pound MMA journalists in Asia. But while we're talking about that, let's just quickly move on to what do you think about Jon Jones getting dropped from number 1 pound for pound?
Oh yeah, interesting.
I think deservedly so, but it's interesting that he had to beat up his girlfriend for the judges to drop him down a place. I mean, if he'd beaten her up more convincingly, would he have stayed at number 1?
It's just strange, isn't it? It's like it takes that for Jones to be knocked off, right? It's just madness.
You know what's crazy is that Volkanovski's at number 3. I didn't expect him to jump so high up. Well, I guess he was sitting at number 4, man. Like those wins over Max, it plays a huge role in, I think, his pound for pound rankings because Max, a lot of people think he's the uncrowned champ. But with Jon Jones, I don't even think he should be in the rankings. I think that they should have took him out, 6 months ago. Clearly,
my personal rule is 18 months. When I do my rankings for one, if someone hasn't fought in 18 months, I take them out. I took Daggy out of my lightweight rankings. I think he's still in there. 18 months, it's fair enough, isn't it? And I think Jones, it's been 18 months now. I think regardless of what happened with this stuff, he should be out of there because of inactivity.
Mhm.
But they kept Khabib in there 6 months after he retired. So what do you expect?
What about Aljo? You know, what I mean, he doesn't get medically cleared, which means the doctors don't see him fit enough, especially his neck, to compete in a championship fight. And it's not just a regular fight where it's like on the prelims, it's a championship fight. You're defending the title, and everybody thinks that Aljamain chickened out and he pulled out, making up a fake injury. That is so insane to me, like how people are reacting to that situation. And I think Peter Yan plays a part in it too, because he kind of feeds into that. And I think it's genius of him to do that too, because it draws a lot of attention to this fight coming up that he's having with Sandhagen. But yeah, what do you guys think about the backlash on Aljo, especially you, Chris? You guys have a connection.
Yeah, I do. I love Aljamain Sterling. I think his hair looks absolutely fantastic on that picture. I didn't have to dig it up. Yeah, you do have to feel sorry for him, though, because I don't know if you guys have read what's actually wrong with him, but he still has having problems with his neck with nerve damage, right? Which does not sound like anything you really want to have. I'm happy they made an interim title. I think it's a little bit too late, in all honesty. But yeah, I just feel dead sorry for Aljamain Sterling because he's kind of got the belt in not the way he wanted to get the belt. Both the guys who are fighting for the interim are coming off losses. For what is one of the UFC's best divisions, it's not great that it's in a mess. And I feel just dead sorry for Aljo because none of it's really his fault. And he's just kind of been caught up in a bit of a whirlwind and a shitstorm that's not really at all of his making.
I think he had the neck injury before the Peter Yan fight. I don't think it happened in that fight. But someone who obviously openly said, I thought he over-dramatized the injury against Peter Yan. I do feel bad from now, and I don't think that all the criticism is justified. And also, like the fact that cause after that fight as well, he said he thought he was winning the fight, and he made excuses why he didn't perform very well. Whereas when he spoke to Ariel today, he said he was losing that fight, and he just said all Peter Yan had to do was not throw that stupid knee, and he probably would have won the fight anyway. So I respect that kind of honesty. And like I said before, Peter Yan put him in that situation of a no-win situation. Whatever he decided to do, he couldn't have come out looking good. So Peter Yan only has himself to blame, really, for the whole situation.
And 100%. The only silver lining to this is that I guess if Yan wins the interim and then goes on to fight Aljo, at least both of them will have belts and they'll both be getting that pay-per-view points. They'll be getting them championship bonuses and they'll be getting paid.
And Sandhagen, although he lost a lot against TJ Dillashaw, a lot of people thought he won that fight. So it's a bit of a Denise one. Officially, he lost, but when it's that close, it's not a straightforward loss.
And while we're looking at these three divisions in particular, guys, what do you think about Triple C wanting Volkanovski to become Quadruple C?
I think if Volkanovski wants a fight before whoever wins between Rodriguez and Holloway, because I feel like that's the winner of that gets the next title shot, right? So, and that's like 2 months from now. I think if Volkanovski wants to fight before that, give Triple C the fight. I just say give it to him because Triple C, he was a champion at flyweight and at bantamweight. You could build that up against Volkanovski and give Volkanovski that fight. If Volkanovski wants it as the champion, and then it stalls out, that matchup stalls out the division a little bit, and Volkanovski, remember, he was supposed to fight Ortega earlier this year, so that he's only fought once this year. He wanted to 3 fights this year. I think Volkanovski, if you give him the opportunity, he'll go out there and fight Triple C. Let Triple C. But now Connor's in the mix because Connor wants to tweet out drunk things during events. And did you see the tweets? Like, he misspelled everything. It's like, don't you got spell correction on your phone, dude? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Let's just be fair, though. I will be fair to Connor that it might be very hard for him to tweet because I would assume he was in Ireland for the fights, right? So they're on at about 4 a.m.
He's still in the US, isn't he?
Or is he still in the US? Well, then there's no excuse. Yeah. If he's awake at 4 a.m. in Ireland, he can be as drunk as he wants. At least he's watching.
Yeah.
At Paddy's Pub.
Paddy's Pub. He's got his own pub now.
That's not a pub, man. A pub is like gritty and dirty. A pub is like
a gastro pub.
It's a gastro pub,
Yeah, it's a new age It's a new age, new wave pub, but the old school pubs, that's what I want. I want to walk in there and the floors are sticky.
Yeah, they did that to one of my favorite pubs in Herne Hill, where I used to live, or not. Well, I didn't live there, but it was very close. And they turned it overnight from it was this wonderful Irish bar, like really gritty, and then it became this stupid gastro pub with nonsense everywhere. I hate it. Hong Kong, similar, isn't it, Chris? Every nice bar just gets snapped up and turned into a fancy concept.
I do hate the gentrification. I don't mind if the food gets better, but keep bringing it to me on a plate. Don't bring it to me on a tile or a wooden board. Like, we create plates for a reason. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only thing you serve on a wooden board is like cheese. Cheese is okay on a wooden board. Anything else, don't serve it on a wooden board. Don't give me steak with gravy on a wooden board because it just falls off the sides. We created the plate thousands of years ago for an exact reason.
Damn.
I feel like I'm
All
Leon.
right.
I feel like I'm going on a rant.
Yeah, you go full Leon.
That's a niche style rant, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's get out of here. I think Leon's got to go see a friend.
My new
What
best
you
friend
got
Leon.
planned, Leon?
My
wait.
new best friend Leon.
You both called Leon.
Yeah.
You guys should start a
Friday night.
podcast.
Yeah.
You're there with each other. Why not start a podcast of just conspiracy theories?
You really should.
Yeah, why
It's
not?
Fat facts.
I mean, you could have us as guests.
Yeah.
That's what you should call your podcast. Not conspiracy theories, facts.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd last very long on YouTube.
No, you'd call the podcast Leonism because both your guys' name is Leon, right? So and you're just giving your ideas. All right, we gave you the show. Nick, take us out.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for liking and subscribing. If you haven't, please do it now. Right now. There you go.
Yeah, like. We've only got 9 likes. There's 26 people watching.
Exactly,
Give us
guys.
a damn like.
What the heck is going on here? Give us a like. Someone disliked it. You know, like that person can get the F out. Bringing you all this great content. Leon's sacrificed his meeting with Leon. He's put it back a little bit. He came here to do the show. Someone pressed dislike. That is disrespect. Cannot believe it. But yeah, John, Leon, Chris, great debate. As always, I do love this lineup. I feel like I said, there's a lot of recipe for carnage there. And we'll be back, I think, in some form. I'll try and do a UFC show on Sunday. Missed it last week. Sorry, guys. Had the cleaner here right at the beginning, right at the end of the UFC. Couldn't really do it. So I will. Yeah, let's do it. What is? I forgot what the actual fight is. 1 second.
38.
Santos and
Santos.
Johnny Walker.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll try and do something. I'll see if any of these guys want to join. But yeah, much love. Thank you everyone for commenting, and we'll see you again